When I was 22, I rented the cheapest apartment I could find. The building was old, with creaky wooden floors and paper-thin walls. My landlord told me the apartment, above mine, had been vacant for months, because of water damage. I didn't think much of it. About a week after moving in, I started waking up every night at exactly 2:17 a.m. At first, it was just footsteps. Slow, heavy, back and forth across the ceiling. I assumed the landlord had rented the apartment without telling me. One morning I asked him. He looked confused. Nobody lives up there. I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. That night I stayed awake. At 2:17, the footsteps started again. They always followed the same pattern. Walk from one end of the apartment to the other. Stop. Then return. Never faster. Never slower. The next day I walked upstairs. The door was locked, and dust covered the frame. Looking through the mail slot, I could barely make out an empty room with torn wallpaper and no furniture. That should have been the end of it. Instead, things got stranger. Every morning after the footsteps, I'd find tiny bits of plaster on my floor, as if someone had been walking directly above my bed. A few days later, I noticed something else. My dog. Every night at 2:16, exactly 1 minute before the footsteps, he'd wake up, stare at the ceiling, and quietly whine. Not barking, just watching. Then one night the footsteps stopped. Instead, 3 knocks, directly above my bedroom. I froze. 3 more knocks. Then silence. A minute later, someone knocked on my apartment door. It was 2:20 a.m. I looked through the peephole. No one. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. The next morning, I asked my neighbor across the hall if she'd heard anything. She turned pale. You hear it too. She told me she'd been hearing footsteps for years but never told anyone, because she thought people would think she was crazy. A week later, the landlord finally agreed to unlock the upstairs apartment. We walked in together. The place was covered in dust. No footprints. No furniture. Nothing that could make those sounds. But directly above where my bed was downstairs, the wooden floor had fresh scratch marks, as if something heavy had been dragged back and forth over the same path. The landlord immediately locked the apartment again. 2 months later, I moved out. Curious, I searched the building online. I found an old newspaper article from the 1980s. A maintenance worker had died in the upstairs apartment after suffering a heart attack while repairing the floor. His body wasn't discovered